Power. It shapes nations, controls economies, and steers the course of history, often behind closed doors and in shadows. Yet, few understand the true mechanics of power like Niccolò Machiavelli, the 16th-century political thinker whose writings have influenced rulers, revolutionaries, and strategists for over 500 years. From Florence's city-states to the halls of global empires, Machiavelli's insights reveal a world where appearances deceive and ruthless pragmatism trumps idealism. His controversial work, The Prince, banned for centuries and branded a handbook for tyrants, continues to echo through modern politics, business, and media. In this video, we'll explore Machiavelli's life, his philosophy of power, and how his teachings have shaped the tactics of some of history's most notorious leaders, from Renaissance princes to 20th-century dictators and beyond. Join us as we uncover the art of power in the modern world, and why understanding Machiavelli is more relevant today than ever before. Before we begin, if you're ready to see the truth behind political power, economic manipulation, and how modern leaders still use Machiavelli's teachings to control the masses, pause for just a moment. Hit that like button to support independent, truth-driven content. Comment, "Power sees through masks," if you're ready to dig deeper than headlines. Subscribe now, because what you're about to hear might just change how you view the world, permanently. Now, let's begin. Niccolò Machiavelli was born in 1469 in Florence, a city-state teeming with political intrigue, competing rulers, and shifting alliances. Raised in a family that valued a classical education, Machiavelli was immersed early on in the Studia Humanitatis, studies of history, moral philosophy, rhetoric, and Latin, disciplines designed to prepare young men for public service. At that time, Italy was far from unified. Instead, it was a patchwork of independent city-states. The Medici family ruled Florence, the Sforzas controlled Milan, the Pope held sway over Rome. These factions competed fiercely for power and influence, often resorting to war and treachery. Machiavelli's own political career began when he was appointed Secretary of the Second Chancery and later Secretary to the Ten of War. His role placed him at the heart of Florence's diplomatic and military affairs. Over 14 years, he traveled across Europe, from the French court to the Papal States, witnessing firsthand the harsh realities of power, leadership, and survival. These experiences, combined with his deep study of classical history, would form the foundation for his groundbreaking writings on political strategy and statecraft. Machiavelli's political thought is best captured in two contrasting works, The Discourses and The Prince. The Discourses championed the ideals of republican self-governance and liberty, advocating for a government ruled by the people rather than a single monarch. It laid the philosophical groundwork that inspired revolutions, including the English and American quests for democracy. In stark contrast, The Prince offered a pragmatic and often ruthless guide for rulers on acquiring and maintaining power. Rejecting the idealism of his time, Machiavelli exposed the harsh tactics leaders used, deceit, manipulation, and brute force, to secure their reigns. So controversial was this book that the Catholic Church banned it for over 2 centuries, fearing its potential to empower tyrants. Over time, The Prince became a manual not just for monarchs but for politicians, business leaders, and strategists worldwide. Its blunt realism reminds us that power is a constant struggle, where morality often takes a back seat to survival and control. Philosophers like Rousseau saw Machiavelli's work as an unflinching look at how the world truly operates, while others condemned it as cynical and dangerous. Regardless, its impact remains undeniable, shaping how power is understood and exercised even today. Few figures in history have wielded Machiavelli's ideas as fiercely and chillingly as Joseph Stalin, the Soviet Union's leader from 1928 to 1953. Stalin's reign was marked by unparalleled use of terror, propaganda, and ruthless control to consolidate power, a stark embodiment of Machiavellian principles in action. Stalin understood that to secure his grip on the Soviet state, he had to eliminate any and all threats. His campaign, known as the Great Terror, lasted from 1937 to 1938 and involved the systematic purging of political rivals, intellectuals, military leaders, and ordinary citizens alike. Over 1,500 people were executed daily during this period, with millions imprisoned in Gulag labor camps under brutal conditions. The atmosphere of fear ensured no one dared oppose him. But Stalin's power was not just brute force, it was psychological and symbolic. He mastered propaganda, building a cult of personality that portrayed him as a heroic, almost divine figure. Statues bearing his likeness towered across the Soviet Union. Cities were renamed in his honor, like Tsaritsyn becoming Stalingrad. Media and arts were tightly controlled to perpetuate his image as the brilliant genius of humanity and the gardener of human happiness. This manipulation of public perception was critical. Stalin knew that a ruler's strongest fortress is the affection of his people. Through endless propaganda, posters, slogans, even mandatory Stalin rooms in private homes, he cultivated loyalty and devotion, drowning out dissent and consolidating his absolute rule. Stalin's reign, fueled by Machiavellian strategy, was responsible for the deaths and suffering of tens of millions. Yet, he remains a grim testament to how Machiavelli's ideas on power and control have shaped some of history's darkest chapters. Machiavelli's influence extends far beyond history books and dictatorships. His teachings remain alive and potent in modern politics and media. Today's leaders wield his principles in subtler, yet equally powerful ways. Modern politicians understand the critical role of public perception and have refined propaganda techniques to shape opinions and maintain control. Unlike the overt terror of past regimes, today's influence operates through mass media, social networks, and carefully crafted messaging, making it less visible but more pervasive. One key Machiavellian strategy is the cultivation of appearance. Politicians strive to project virtue, compassion, and honesty, even when their actions tell a different story. Generous public spending on infrastructure, healthcare, and education becomes a tool not just for progress, but for gaining popularity and votes. However, history warns of the dangers in this approach. Machiavelli argued that generosity can be self-defeating. Lavish spending requires higher taxes, which eventually breeds public resentment. Modern governments evade this backlash through inflation and other indirect methods, subtly extracting wealth while maintaining the illusion of benevolence. The growing concentration of wealth exemplifies this dynamic. Analysts predict that by 2045, over 60% of the United States' wealth will be held by the richest 1%. This unprecedented disparity fuels social unrest, yet those in power often manipulate narratives to distract and divide. Understanding these Machiavellian tactics is essential for citizens seeking to navigate the complex landscape of modern governance and media, and to demand transparency and accountability. To fully grasp modern power, we must examine how money itself has become a tool of control, shaped by centuries of evolution, from barter systems to precious metals, and now to fiat currency. Initially, societies exchanged goods directly, but this barter system was inefficient. Over time, money emerged as a universally accepted medium of exchange, first in forms like shells and beads, then precious metals like gold and silver, which backed early currencies and imposed natural limits on government spending. This changed dramatically in the 20th century. After World War II, the global economy operated under the Bretton Woods system, where currencies were pegged to the US dollar, itself backed by gold. This arrangement provided a measure of stability and trust in the financial system. However, in 1971, the US severed the dollar's link to gold, a move known as the Nixon shock. This ushered in the era of fiat money, currency not backed by any physical commodity but rather by government decree. Governments gained the power to print unlimited money, drastically altering the economic landscape. While fiat currency allows for flexible monetary policy, it carries significant risks. Excessive money printing leads to inflation, the gradual erosion of purchasing power. Historical examples like Germany's hyperinflation after World War I illustrate the devastating consequences of unchecked currency devaluation. Today, inflation acts as a hidden tax, disproportionately affecting the poor who hold wealth in cash rather than appreciating assets. Meanwhile, wages stagnate and costs for essentials like housing, education, and healthcare soar, making the American dream increasingly out of reach for many. Understanding the connection between money, power, and economic policy reveals how financial manipulation sustains modern political control and deepens societal divides. Since the shift to fiat currency, national debts have ballooned to unprecedented levels, reshaping the political and economic landscape worldwide. Take the United States as a prime example. By 1971, its national debt stood at around $400 billion, accumulated over nearly 2 centuries of wars and crises. Fast forward just 50 years, and that figure has exploded to over $31 trillion, a staggering increase fueled by government spending, wars, and social programs. Politicians, driven by the desire to maintain power and secure votes, often resort to massive spending sprees financed not through taxes but through borrowing and money printing. This strategy keeps the public content in the short term but pushes the economic burden onto future generations. Inflation acts as a stealth tax, silently eroding the value of savings and income, hitting the poorest hardest. The wealthiest, on the other hand, protect themselves by investing in assets that appreciate in value, such as real estate, stocks, and rare collectibles. The widening wealth gap fuels social tensions and undermines democratic institutions. As the cost of living soars, many struggle to afford basic needs, increasing dissatisfaction and political unrest. This growing debt and economic inequality reflect Machiavelli's insights into power dynamics. Rulers prioritize maintaining their grip on power, even if it means exploiting the populace through hidden financial mechanisms. Understanding this context is crucial to recognizing how economic policies serve political agendas and influence societal stability. Looking ahead, the trajectory of debt and economic manipulation suggests increasing challenges for governments and citizens alike. The national debt of the United States alone is projected to exceed $100 trillion by mid-century, with debt-to-GDP ratios soaring beyond sustainable levels. Similar trends are evident worldwide, as governments continue to rely on printing money to finance spending and maintain political favor. Machiavelli's warnings about the dangers of excessive generosity ring true today. Lavish spending secures short-term popularity but eventually erodes the ruler's power through rising taxes, inflation, and public discontent. The delicate balance between maintaining public affection and managing financial reality grows ever more precarious. Political leaders face mounting pressures to deliver immediate benefits, often sacrificing long-term stability. Economic collapse, social unrest, and loss of trust in institutions loom as real possibilities if these trends continue unchecked. Yet, Machiavelli's legacy also offers a lens for understanding and navigating these complex dynamics. By studying the art of power, citizens can become more aware of manipulation tactics and advocate for transparency and accountability. Ultimately, knowledge is power. Recognizing how power operates enables us to challenge abuses and build a more just and resilient society. Niccolò Machiavelli's insights into power, once considered dangerous and subversive, remain profoundly relevant. His works reveal the enduring nature of political struggle, the use of propaganda and fear, and the economic mechanisms that sustain control. Understanding Machiavelli equips us to see beyond appearances, question authority, and engage critically with the forces shaping our world.